Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi everybody, I'm Faith Mantooth. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, it's nice to be here tonight. I want to thank Nancy for asking me to come and share, and your secretaries for having me. They may let me come back next week. I'm not sure. We'll wait and see how the talk goes tonight. It got immediately warm in here from the coffee break. It's nice and hot now and cozy. I shared this morning, so I'm a little punchy because I was up at 7, and I haven't been doing 7 for about 6 months now. I've been doing about 10 in the morning, and I've gotten real comfortable with 10 in the morning being my hour of the day. That's when I come alive. And so I was already out at a meeting and sharing in the valley and driving in 2 feet of water, and I really kind of enjoyed it. It took me back to when I had a job 6 months ago and what it was like dressing up and getting in the freeway and the crowds and that kind of thing. And I totally forgot I was coming here tonight when I said I would speak this morning because it was one of those impromptu things. So I feel like I've already told my story once today, and I feel like you were my audience already, so I don't feel like telling it again because I don't want to bore you, but I know that you haven't heard my story, except that I know everybody in the room. And that makes it very difficult to talk. I prefer going out. I love to talk. Don't get me wrong. I love to hear myself talk. I'm a very typical alcoholic. Joe's cracking up. He knows exactly what I mean. But I don't like to talk in front of people I know because it really hits me in here in a different place than it does when I'm out talking to strangers. You know, this is home for me. Nancy and her friend Nancy started this meeting over 10 years ago, and I was one of the first people to come 10 years ago, and I've been coming here on Friday nights ever since, on and off. So this is like home to me, the same way that the Pacific Group is like home to me because I spent my first 7 years there on Wednesday night. So I can still pop in there on a Wednesday night any day of the week. Well, not any day, only on a Wednesday night, actually. But on a Wednesday and feel like I'm at home. So I can't get up here and be real glib and bullshit and tell you cute things because it just doesn't feel like that for me tonight. I feel a little somber, and that's not really usually the way I am. I'm usually pretty, a little flippant when I'm up here. And one of my friends, Jim, says he always hopes I'm angry when I talk because when I'm angry, I always give a better talk. And I haven't been angry in a long time, so I've been bored with my talks, quite frankly, because I don't have all this emotion and passion at the podium. And this week, I've just been dealing with some stuff that's been kind of difficult for me. And it's been, of course, in the realm of dogs. What else? 3 weeks ago, my dog got very ill, Kenya, and I almost lost him. And I want to thank the people in this room that said prayers for my dog because he's home and he's alive and well. And this week I found 2 stray dogs that are both homeless, and I have one in my car, and there's another one that's an older guy. And I just, it just breaks my heart when I find people's dogs and I can't find their homes because it would just kill me if my dogs were on the street and no one could return my dog to me. And Dina's just lost her chocolate lab, and I saw her yesterday at the shelter. I'm putting up a found sign, and she's putting up a lost sign, How many millions of people are in Los Angeles that we would run into each other at the shelter and know each other? That's just, that's Alcoholics Anonymous. She needed to see me there, and I needed to be there doing what I do. And if I was still working full-time, God has a different path for me. I'm not sure still what it is. I know it has to do with animals and doing this thing that I do. But if I was working a full-time job, I wouldn't be able to go post signs at SPCA shelters and at pet stores, and I wouldn't be able to look for the owners of this dog, and I wouldn't have time to do it. And So I've been just feeling this real sense of gratitude, this overwhelming sense of I love my life so much. I love what I do. I love the gifts that God has given me. And it's been a long time in coming for me to feel that way. I don't have any of the stuff out there that I would ask for if I was writing a list of what I want. But I feel so good in here with Faith where I live today. And if you're new tonight or newer than me, it's taken 16 years to get here. And it's taken a lot of beating my head against brick walls. It's taken a lot of complaining and moaning and groaning and being angry and being dramatic and throwing temper tantrums and just growing up. I'm a grown-up 16-year-old today, and that feels really, really good most of the time. I didn't come to Alcoholics Anonymous with any of these feelings. I didn't come to Alcoholics Anonymous loving dogs particularly. I didn't come to AA loving anything except drugs and alcohol. They were my only friend by the time I got to you guys. So the fact that I have any kind of a thought about things other than myself and my focus is never on me anymore is just such a freedom. That's why we came when we were new. They told me to go to a meeting every day, so for an hour and a half I'd get a break from myself. And some days it was like, gee, I don't know if I want to break from myself from that long. Can I stand it, I mean, that's all we do when we're new is just think about me, 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 and the world revolves around me. And I remember being at the Pacific Group one night bitching to Sharon Barker about something. I don't know what it was, but it was something about me, I'm sure. There's no doubt about it. I was getting the short end of the stick. Sharon was my sponsor for a long time. And she said, when are you going to get it, Faith? You're just a grain of sand. You're just one amongst many. This world here does not revolve around you. They didn't do that to get you. She didn't say that to them to get you. And that's how, in my mind, how everything worked all my entire life. Just ultra-sensitive alcoholic, and everything that was bad that was happening was somehow had something to do with me. And it's so glad to not feel like anything has anything to do with me anymore. Nothing has anything to do with me. I just get up, suit up, show up, and do God's will, whatever that is for me today. And the fact of the matter is that the older I get, the less I know about His will, but the more I trust it. That is such a freedom. That's such a relief. Before I got here tonight, I was at a networking party, and one of the questions on there is to share with the group what has happened to you that you have no explanation for. Well, I wasn't going to talk about Alcoholics Anonymous at this big party of straight people, but I said, coming close to 49, being in my late 30s and feeling so good about my life and not really having much of an explanation for, although I know the explanation is all about the 12 steps, it's all about God, it's all about being with you guys, and it's all about learning what is really important in life, which is love, and that's the most important thing that goes on in our lives, Without that, none of the other things I've ever had have meant anything at all. And it's just, when I was younger and I got to AA, I thought coming up on 40 was old. Life's just about over. If you're over 40 in this room, you might as well just kill yourself tonight because there's not a lot left. And now that I'm approaching 40, I feel like I have barely begun to live. Life has never been better for me. I've never felt better. I've never had it better. I've never been more logical. I want what I have, and I've wanted what I've had for a long time now. Nobody else here has to want what I have. Only person who has to want it is me. And I'd rather have my demons than your demons any day of the week. Joe's a hard act to follow. Bob Lemke last week is a hard act to follow. These guys are moguls in Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't have a canned pitch. You get me the way I come, wrapped, however I come that particular Friday night, But I got here when I was 21 years old, before my 21st birthday, and I came by way of Van Nuys jail on a court card, and I'd already been arrested 3 times for drunk driving, and I wasn't even legal to drink. I should have been dead on any of those occasions. There's a lot of mercy in Alcoholics Anonymous and very little justice, I found, and it's worked to my advantage here because I'm your speaker tonight. There's been many, many, many times that I drank and used and woke up in situations that I never, ever should have lived through. And it never occurred to me drinking or using had anything to do with that. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I was hanging out with the wrong people, or I was the victim and they were shitheads, and I'm never going out with them again, obviously. And, it never occurred to me that alcohol had anything to do with my problem until I came to an AA meeting. I'd never heard of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'd never been around alcoholics. In my mind, my two older brothers were drug addicts, They were, children of the 60s. They were the first ones to get me loaded. I mean, in those days, in the early 70s, there was good hash. You're talking about good hashish, not just crap. No bunk pot. We had good pot. And my older brothers would love to sit around and just let's get little Faithy loaded, and see me and my girlfriends just laugh ourselves to death and fall off the chairs. And it was just so cute. It was just so cute for a while until me and my little girlfriends were out buying, dope ourselves. And marijuana does not lead to heroin if you're scared of needles. If you're not scared of needles, it definitely can lead to heroin if you be an alcoholic. I was lucky. I was frightened to death of needles, so I never shot anything. But when I was sober, I heard a guy give a heroin a log here, and I was so pissed because I didn't know you could snort heroin. I thought you had to shoot it. I wanted to go out. I wanted some heroin before I gave up everything. I was just so upset that no one had told me that you could do that. And I probably was a blessing in disguise, because I probably never would have been back here if I had gotten to snort heroin. Cocaine, scotch, and dexedrine were my drugs of choice, in any order, at any time, of anybody's. And, my drug of choice was yours, as long as it kept me going. I did not care for downers, Valiums, rainbows, Tuinals, any of that shit. I wanted to go, 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 go the same way I go, go, go now. I don't stop for anything now, and I never stopped my whole life. Before I found drugs, I never stopped for anything. My parents used to sit me in the corner as a discipline because they knew it drove me out of my mind. It drove me wild to sit in the corner in a chair, and I would just, when I'd get out of that chair, I'd just raise so much hell just to pay them back for making me sit in that chair. And relatives would come over and they'd never let me sleep in the same room with grandma or aunt whoever or so-and-so because I'd kick and squirm and scream all night long. I'd never had a restful night of sleep. I'd keep everybody up. And I just was that way. I'm sure that I was an ADD kid now that I'm older. I'm sure I was a hyperactive child. Ritalin would have done wonders for someone like me back then, But I don't even know if they gave kids Ritalin at that age, 30-some years ago. But when I did get a hold of Ritalin in my late teens, it did wonders for me, so I'm sure it would have done wonders for me when I was a little one. And I was born, I don't know if I was born with the disease of alcoholism, but I was born with some kind of ism that made me different from you, that made me different from my fellows from the very beginning. I went to kindergarten, I was different. My name was Faith, I was tall, I had freckles, I had funny ears, I was from the Midwest, I was in a very wealthy Jewish community, and I felt like I stood out like a sore thumb. I was just different from the gate. And from then till the time I got to you, I was either less than or better than, always. I never felt like I fit in. And that's the definition of disease, is being ill at ease. And I felt uncomfortable all the time, no matter what the situation was. I was uncomfortable unless I was sitting in front of the television set, stuffing my face with food, watching, Wild Wild West and the Flintstones and all the stuff we were raised on, Ozzie and Harriet, and dreaming about being in, Beaver's family and being his only sister, and that's how it was supposed to be for me. I was supposed to be raised in Lassie's family, little Jimmy. That's where I was supposed to be raised. And how I got this shitty family that I got, I have no idea. And I always felt that way. And then my brothers would get me alone and tell me I was adopted, and they would keep it up, and they'd lock me in a room and keep it up until I cried, And they were great. Brothers are great for that stuff. Scott used to, my middle brother, put me out in a box and set me in the middle of the street and not let me out of a box, and then tell me cars were coming, and then he'd run away. And I'd hear nothing else but wheels of tires, And he'd hide under my bed with knives at night. My mom would go to sleep and turn the lights on, and he'd take knives up and down the bottom of my bed. I was afraid of the dark until I got sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. I bit my nails till I was 20 years old. And I was a belligerent, rebellious, just a kid full of so much anger. I can't tell you the anger, the wrath that I had. And I have no idea where all that fight and all that stuff came from. It was just there. And when I smoked pot or drank, it just unleashed it. I just had the freedom to do and be anything that I needed to do or be. And I begged to go to therapy. I begged to do all that stuff. And you just didn't do that if you were my folks. That's just not okay. It's not okay to let anyone know that there might be something not quite perfect at your house. And So by the time I got arrested a few times and came here on a court card, I definitely had paid my dues in those 11 years, and I was one of those sickening newcomers that was home. I bawled my eyes out that first night, and they asked me to share and pointed to me, the lady in the red, and I'm like, oh, no, I can't share, I didn't know you had to share. I was just like, no, I can't share. And I got 13th step that first night, and my Eskimo stayed with me for my first month. I had no idea what the 13th step was. I didn't know what an Eskimo was. All I knew was this guy had the hots for me, and he wouldn't leave me alone. And as a result, we went to meetings every night of the week. And I found out later that he was a chronic slipper, and I don't know where he is today. I've seen him at different times through my sobriety, but that man saved my life, So people make a lot of fun of 13 stepping, but when I was new, that's all I had to offer. That's all I had to offer when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, was being a drug addict, an alcoholic, and a whore. So I totally related with what you said, Rebecca, and happy birthday. That's as high as I could have climbed. And so if anybody wanted to take me out or sleep with me, that was just fine, and that's what kept me in Alcoholics Anonymous when I was new, and the men kept me coming back. And motives don't count here, guys. Doesn't matter what you keep coming back for. It absolutely doesn't matter. I kept coming back long enough until I wanted to come back for me, and now I come back for myself. Sometimes I come back because I want to get, punch somebody out, but that's been a long time ago. It hasn't happened in a while. Usually if Eddie's in the room, I come back. I'm ready to do battle. I just said that because Don's here, and he can tell him I said that. Actually, Eddie and I are friends today. That is an amazing amount of growth from where we come from in our relationship. And that's nothing that you could have told me would have happened. There's nothing, nobody could have told me that I would feel the way I feel tonight and feel the love that I have for the friends that are in my life and the people in my life, and that I finally figured out what's really, truly important, and all the money, property, and prestige that's come and gone through the years and before I got sober and after I got sober is absolutely of no consequence compared to the feelings and the love that I get to experience in my heart, and the compassion and empathy that I'm able to share with other people. That's something I never, ever had. I got into dog training thinking it was going to be so great I'd never have to talk to people again. It'd just be wonderful. I hate people. Why the hell would I want to talk to people? I'll work with animals. So what do I do every day? I train a bunch of people to try to talk to their dog and not beat their dog anymore, And so that may be my little contribution to society. That might be my little thing that I get to do, and God's given me that gift. And I feel really just so grateful for it lately. More and more as time goes on, I feel more grateful for it. It's something I always wanted, was to be able to work in an occupation that I had a passion for. I did accounting for 20-some years because I accidentally got a job accidentally at an insurance agency when was accidentally there when they needed a bookkeeper, and I accidentally learned how to do the books, and everything was a big accident because I never planned to work, because I was raised to get married, have a picket fence, have 6 children. The husband's going to go out, like my mother did. I'm like, Mom, it isn't like that anymore, They didn't raise us to go to college. My folks said, you want to go to college? Fine. You're going to put yourself through college, so go get a job. I was working when I was 10 years old, babysitting and saving my own money. I had to buy my first bicycle. I had to buy everything I had. And I used to just resent and hate them for all that. And today I just love the fact that they instilled those kind of work ethics in me, because there's never been a day in my life that I haven't been able to take care of myself and fend for myself. But the gifts I've gotten in Alcoholics Anonymous have been the gifts of, the gifts of courage, the gifts of being able to walk through the doors when they open, the gifts of being able to go do the things I've always wanted to do and just dreamt about in books and thought that that was only for other people, that was never for me. And I remember, I was thinking about it today, I had to fill out I'm joining yet another singles dating thing. Oh my God, because it's free. It's free. And it's brand new. And it's only for men over 40 with lots of money. So I thought, how can I can't fail on this one. Anyway, one of the questions about what you do and this, that, and the other thing, and I had to start thinking about, what do I do besides dogs? Do I have a life besides dogs? And it was kind of scary because there isn't much of one there. And, I learned to scuba dive on this program. I'm scared of the water, guys. I don't swim. I don't open my eyes underwater. I do not put my head underwater. I hate to swim. I have scuba dove all over the world because I get a little mask that covers my eyes so they don't get wet, and I get air so I can breathe, and it's just great. God did that for me. I didn't do that. You can't get me under the water. I can't even use a snorkel properly, but I can scuba dive 60, 70, 80 feet down where there's sharks and sea turtles and all kinds of wonderful things because God goes with me there, because God walked with me and helped me to do that deal, The same thing going to to Africa. I can't leave the United States. I've never been out of the country. So what do? I fly to Africa and go on a month-long safari by myself with nobody that I know. And the first person God puts me in touch with is an Al-Anon that has a son that's in AA, and she becomes my roommate. And, those are just shots from God. Every time I've had something difficult to do, God has walked with me through it. And I've become very dependent on that. Very, very dependent on that source. God is my source of everything. I don't leave the house today with any dread or any fear about what's going to happen or what could happen. And I don't even go there. Worry is not in my vocabulary. There's nothing to be concerned about. Things are going to work out the way they work out, or they're not going to work out. And I learned here that the things that are meant for me will never pass me by. I heard that at a women's retreat that we went to, and I just love that, And everything that I've thought was meant for me, whether it be a guy or a job or a house or a certain dog or whatever it is, always it is taken away from me. Always I lose it if I force it and make it happen, because it's not meant to be. God's always had my best in store for me, always, always, always. And I just have a hard time trusting that process because I want what I want now, It's been a lot of years of beating me into a patient mode, and where I can wait for things to come. And gosh, it's really hard to think about all the wonderful things that have happened in 16 years. The hardest things that have happened have not been surrendering to this program and getting sober, if you're new here. The hardest things have been waving the white flag and surrendering to my ego, surrendering to my pride, saying I'm sorry, asking for your help, being willing to pick up the phone when I'm not feeling well, being willing to say I'm not perfect, I don't have it all together. Yes, I'm 10 years sober, and I thought I should have it all together, because that's what you do when you sit here year after year. You think, well, when I get to be 5, it's going to be great. And then you're 5 and, your ass falls off. And then you get to be 10 and it's going to be really super great. And you get there and, it's even worse. And the person who shared 8, 9, and 10 were the worst years I've ever had in my sobriety. I was so angry at AA. I was so angry at being an alcoholic. I was so sick of working the steps and going to meetings I could hardly stand it, And we just do it anyway. I'm so, I forget the speaker who says it, but I think Sharon does. I'm just so blessed that my feet are trained to do what my head will not do. My feet are trained to come to Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's where they go. They get in the car and they go there. I'm trained to pick up that phone and do these things, because there's been many times where I've wanted to take a drink, and there's certainly been many occasions where it would have been well justified for me to get loaded. And it's just the training that you've given me. I was thinking about the fact that I do dog training, and that's all that's happened to me here, is you guys have shaped a whole new faith. You've shaped brand new behaviors in me, so that I do not only do I not go to the old ones, they're gone. They're extinguished. I've been working on these over here so long that these over here don't exist anymore. And I don't know how to do those. It's almost automatic for me to apologize now when I know that I'm out of line. That is amazing for me. I would have to be told to go apologize, and then I would still just sit and grit my teeth and not do it. Making amends was the hardest thing for me here. There was just no way, because there's no way that I owed anybody anything. They all owed me an amends for something. I was still the victim. You all had shit on me my whole life. If it wasn't for that teacher and that parent and that. And when my sponsor said, put yourself on the top of that list, I just said, no, you don't understand. I don't think I should be on the top of that list, because I've been out there raising hell with everybody else, not with myself, And it's really true. It's been really hard to learn how to be my own best friend, and which things really are taking care of me and which things are not. Because in the early years, I thought I was doing things that were taking care of faith. They weren't taking care of me at all. It was the old stuff from my drinking days, and I thought it was taking care of me. Now I really know what taking care of myself is, And you can't get here till you get here. The light doesn't go on till the light goes on. We would love to give everybody in the room every bit of knowledge and self-awareness and spirituality and good days that we all have, or that we've all experienced, and keep you all here forever. And there is no way to get it except to stay here one day at a time and get it and walk through it. And, the irony of it is, the more worse times, the more bad times you've had in sobriety, the more good times you're apt to have, because you have a long way to come up from being way down here. The people that come in with a high bottom have a harder time sometimes, And I think I came in as a high bottom drunk. Even though I was on a court card, I still had a job, I still had a car, I still, went to work every day, I had an apartment, I had all the stuff. I didn't come in completely out of stuff. And so my armor has been out here for a lot of years, for a long time. I learned that young growing up. And this armor of mine it has so many forms, and it creeps up on me so much of the time. And my big thing the last couple of years is trying to learn to be vulnerable and let you know that I need you. And that is so not natural for me to do. It is so natural for me to hear you say it all the time. Oh, I need a hug, or I need to talk to somebody. And it's as natural as pie for me to give you a hug and give you support. And it's so hard for me to pick up the phone and ask for that same thing, because I'm Superwoman. I should have it all together. And that kind of idea about myself is what gets me into a lot of trouble. I shouldn't have anything together. I should be out drunk or dead. That's what alcoholics do. It's Friday night, 8:30. I should be getting dressed and be about on my ass right now, drunk. And then hit the car. I always get in the car and drive drunk, always. And I have to fight you for the keys, because I am the designated driver when I'm drunk. I know everything when I'm drunk. And, I've been pulled over when I'm drunk. Not pulled over. I have been brought to when I'm drunk, rolling down the street in neighborhoods. I'm passed out behind the wheel of the car, and people come out and get me and park my car and bring me in their home, and I wake up in strange places with strange people. And they say, oh, you were passed out behind the wheel, we brought you in so you didn't kill yourself. I've had that happen a lot of times. Those are little, those are fairy god, those are angels. I don't know what else you want to call them. But those are do-gooders, and those people are out there. Those people are out there taking care of people like us until we can get to each other and save each other, I've had lots of fun stuff happen since I've been sober, but the stuff that's made the biggest impacts on me have been the really big stuff that I've had to do. I remember being 5 and being down at the Mission, just crying to Clancy. I'd lost my job, I'd lost my relationship, and I hadn't been going to meetings. So I really had not much to fall back on, and he always talks about those being your 3 major areas of your life, and they are. And he said, you're on the edge of the Grand Canyon, and you're about ready to fall off. One more shitty thing happens to you, and you're going to go get drunk. And I believed him, and I felt that way. In fact, I feel like I was looking for an excuse to go get drunk. I hated you, I hated being an alcoholic, I had no job, I had no relationship, and I felt unloved, and I'm sure I was unloving. And once again, I was at that crossroads, and Clancy got on the phone and got somebody to give me a job, and within a couple days, I was back in meetings, I had a job, and he just patched my life up. And none of that worked for a long time, but it worked for the moment. All I have to do is get through this moment right now. I love Al Sines when I heard him years ago. Right now. He used to pound on the podium, and they'd never have Al speak at the Pacific Group, but I heard him when I went to other meetings, and he was just great. I'm like, where have they been hiding all these great speakers? This is what I need to hear, And when I get into a shitty place, I remember that. Right now, this moment, everything is always okay in my life right now at this moment. Always, always, always. It's where my head takes me that I get into trouble. And I've been doing enough positive stuff for long enough that where my head takes me today is to a good place. I haven't had a bad day in a long time. I had a really sad week when Kenya was so ill, but I still didn't have any bad days. I was going through a sad time because I might lose something I love very much. But even with that, I thought I'd die if anything ever happened to Kenya. And that Thursday night when he was so sick, I basically just got on my knees and gave him to God that night, and I was pretty sure that it was over for him. That is an acceptance that I would never, ever have been able to do. But I know that it would have been the right thing to do. That's about me and God. That's about working on a relationship for years and years and years to know that that's okay. When my parents left town, my uncle died right when Kenya was in the hospital, and they left town, and it's like I wanted my mommy and daddy here to go to the hospital with me to see my dog. And they had to go do what they had to do for my uncle, And it was like, Faith, you got to walk through this by yourself, You're a grown-up now. This is real life. Mom and Dad aren't going to be there forever. And it really was, it's really... It was a good experience. It was a really growing experience for me, and the pain never came. Once again, God has asked me to be willing to do a lot of difficult things, and I've never had to go through to the end with it. I always talk about that with Kenya, He's the dog I always talk about that I got for the guiding eyes and raised him, and without him, I wouldn't be a dog trainer. I wouldn't probably be sober. I've stayed sober so many days for those dogs, you have no idea. If you don't have a pet at home, go buy something so that you can't get drunk, because you got to go home and feed that goddamn animal, even when you're pissed off. You got to go to work and make money to feed them. When you got 6 of them, let me tell you, you got to work to feed those dogs, and they come before I do. And you've got to be responsible when you have something that you love. And if you can't find it in a human being, go do it with something that can give you some unconditional love, because it works every single time. And then pretty soon you can start to give that love out to other people. That's how it worked for me. But it almost seemed like it had gone full circle with Kenya that last week, and with my folks being gone and everything. And I really felt like, my God, you're a grown-up. You're a grown-up woman now, and you can do life. You can do life on life's terms. You can reach out to your friends, which is what I did here. You know, I called Jim and Jean, and I called people with dogs, and Nancy went with me to the hospital. And I sat there with Kenya, and I shoved that food down his throat, and I said, God damn it, you get better right now. I'm going to kill you. And I kept stuffing that food in him until he finally started eating it, and he came home. And I was just determined. And, you know, it's like somebody going through a sickness with somebody they love. They're just going to be there for them and do everything they can and just pray them into health again. And for those of you that don't know, Kenya is my child. He is my baby. I've been trying for 4 years to have a baby, and now I've had to put off, once again, my in vitro process because Kenya comes first. That money went to save the dog, you know, and that's what it's supposed to be. You know, those dogs are my responsibility the same way children are parents' responsibility. And you taught me these kind of ethics. I didn't come in here like this. You taught me if I'm going to have a dog, have enough money in the bank to take care of it if it gets sick. You taught me to show up at work every day and, you know, and take care of paying my bills. You taught me to suit up and wear a dress when I speak in front of a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous and be an example to somebody sitting in that room so they might want what I have and not slop up here to the podium looking like a piece of shit, like I'm still drinking in a bar. You know, when I'm up here, I am representing Alcoholics Anonymous. And when I'm out there in the streets, I'm representing Alcoholics Anonymous. And I want people to know that I'm a sober member of this program and that it means something to me and that I respect it, because if it wasn't here, I wouldn't be here and you wouldn't be here. And this is a big social thing most of the time, but we forget that we're here to save our lives. You know, this is about life and death. And with that, we get all this other fun, great stuff that we get to do and the friends that we get to have and just so many wonderful things to participate in. But I could never have gone to Africa on my own, alone, some little Swahili guy standing there with a sign. You've seen him in the airport, you know, and you're going, oh my God, I'd be so scared to do that. Well, he's got a little sign. I got to go find a little Swahili guy. Nobody speaks my language or anything. And then I went to Europe to 4 countries on my own after that. And it's not any big deal that I did that stuff, except that no one in my family's ever been out of the United States. No one's been anywhere. My mother made me call her from Kenya to make sure I hadn't been eaten by pygmies the second day. You know, I mean, that's what they still think goes on there, you know. And, you know, the day my parents let me have a key to their house, that took 5 years of sobriety for them to trust me enough to give me a key to the house again. Those are the big deals. Those are the things in here that mean everything. When my best friend asked me to be the godmother to her child, that was about the biggest compliment I had ever gotten. You know, those are the things that matter. Going to Africa is just one of my dreams come true. Your dream may be to go to India and be a monk. I mean, Sophie's been there, done that, and done all the other things, you know. If you want to go swim with whales, you can do that. If you want to go hike up with gorillas and sit with them like I did, you can do that. Your greatest dreams can come true in Alcoholics Anonymous. I know if I take a drink or use a drug, it is not going to ever make my life better. And I know that I give up my chance of ever having the things that I want out of life. And at this stage of life, I don't know what I want anymore. I'm leaving that up for grabs for God, because it seems like he's delivering some really terrific stuff to me lately, you know. And I'm just not, you know, I'm just not in one of my funny, glib moods, and I don't have a lot of wonderful stuff to share with you, except that I'm sober 16 years, and that's a result of Alcoholics Anonymous, good, bad, or indifferent. You know, we're going to leave in a week and go to Vancouver and hear my sponsor Carol speak at a convention up there. You just heard Carol 2 weeks ago. Carol doesn't fly. Carol doesn't drive. Carol's agoraphobic. She doesn't leave town. So the fact that she's going up there and we're going to go up there and support her is a huge deal. And why would I give a shit about flying to Vancouver and spending my money to support some old lady, you know? I wouldn't if I was drinking and using, but it means everything to me to do that sober. It means absolutely everything in the world. And what I give out here is what I get back here. And when I'm giving out a lot, I'm not thinking about faith. And the more I give away, the more I get back. And it's just a beautiful way to go. I can't imagine being or doing anything different in my life than I've done. When I think about it at night and think, how could I have changed it? What would I have done different? Absolutely nothing, because it took every 502, it took every strange bed, it took every, you know, bloat of 175 pounds of being yellow and jaundiced when I got here for me to stay here. It took every single thing. My past is my best ally. You know, my past is absolutely my best ally. And for me to be able to go to a meeting tonight and not have to tell them I'm an alcoholic, and to date a normal guy for the last month and not tell him I'm an alcoholic, this is great growth. You guys don't know me. Faith Mantooth has the biggest mouth in the world. Let me shock you with what all I've done, you know. Well, no wonder nobody wants to go out with me a second time. I scare them to death. You know, it doesn't take long. Oh, and then I danced on the tables and took my clothes off, and then they arrested me, and yeah, so it's a little much for the normal realm out there. They just don't live like that, most of them, they don't live like we do. So it's been, I'm growing up. That's the bottom line. I'm growing up. It's nice to speak at my home group. It's nice to speak to people that I know that I love and love me, and I want to thank you again for letting me share. Thanks.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.